Hi, my name is Mike, and in today's video we're going to learn how to merge multiple files into one large file by creating a simple Perl script. For this tutorial we'll be using these sample files that represent the hypothetical output of a piece of test equipment. Let's open one of each type so we can see what we're working with. As you can see, the raw data files contain some random information in the CSV format. As for the error logs, they are saved in text files and have generic error information which is presented in a human-readable format. I've gone ahead and created a Perl script named merge.pl in the same directory as our sample files, and I've also opened it in my text editor. Before we actually start coding, let's choose which files we want to combine. To make it simple, let's just say we want to have one file that contains all of the raw data, and then ignore the remaining error log files. Now that we know what the goal is, let's dive into the code. I've already added the first few lines to ensure that the script uses strict mode and generates warnings. These settings are optional, so feel free to remove them at any given point. The first thing we need to do is create an array that will store a list of document file names. To get the list of file names, we need to set doclist equal to the built-in Perl function called glob. We then pass in a string expression that tells the glob function which files to select. For example, we know that all of our data files are saved in the CSV format, so we could write star.csv, and that would return all of the files that end with the CSV extension. However, what if all of our files were of the same type? Well, in that case we could pick something unique about the name of the file rather than the extension. In our case we could write star raw data star, and that would select any file that contains the string raw data. Now this is case insensitive, which is why I wrote it in all lowercase letters. Just keep that in mind when you create your own expressions. Next, we need to create the output file. This is done by calling the open function and then passing in 3 arguments. The first argument will be the file handle that we assign to the output file. We can call it output. The second argument will specify which mode we want to use, such as read, write, append, etc. Today we want to use the greater than symbol because it will open the file in write mode and overwrite the file each time the script is run. For more info on modes, I'll put a link in the description of this video. Lastly, we need to add the file name argument. This lets us specify the name of the output file. We can call it alldata.csv. It's always good practice to close the file after we're done with it, so let's add that line now. At this point, we can start copying each of the selected files one at a time to the output file. To do this, we create a for each loop, pass in the doclist array, and create a variable to hold the file name for each iteration. Inside the loop, we will need to open the current file. So let's call the open function again, create a file handle, and pass in the file name variable. This time we don't need to specify the mode, because the default mode is set to input. Now let's make sure we close each input file as well. Lastly, we will add the code that copies the contents of the input file over to the output file. This is done by simply using a print statement. So let's type print, then specify where we want to print by using the output file handle, and then type input surrounded by angle brackets to specify the content to be printed. Let's save the file and run it. The output file is created as expected. Now let's open the file and make sure the contents are what we expect. At first glance, everything seems to be fine. However, if we look closely, we can see that the last line of each file also contains the first line of the following file. This is happening because our data files don't end with a new line character. If this is the case for your input files as well, there is a simple fix. All we need to do is print a single new line character after each file. So let's type print, output, and then add a string representation of a new line character, which is \n. If we save and run our script again, we can see that the output is now correct. And that wraps up this tutorial. If you found it useful, please give the video a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to get all the latest content. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.